we are asked to factor each expression. Remember, the first step in any factoring problem is to factor out the greatest common factor. If we don't factor out the greatest common factor, then the expression will not be factored completely. Looking at the first expression, we have 4x squared plus 20x minus 24. Again, the first step is to factor out the greatest common factor. Looking at all three terms, notice how the greatest common factor is 4. So we begin by factoring out 4. If it's helpful, we can write each term as a product with the factor of 4. For example, we could write the expression as 4 times x squared for 4x squared plus 20x is equal to 4 times 5x minus 24 is equal to 4 times 6. Notice how in this form, we can actually see the greatest common factor of 4 as well as the remaining factor in each term after factoring out 4. So if we factor out 4, we can see we're left with x squared plus 5x minus 6. So notice how once we factor out the 4, the trinomial inside the parentheses has a leading coefficient of 1, which makes the factoring much easier. If the trinomial inside the parentheses factors further, it will factor into two binomial factors. Because the first term is x squared, which equals x times x, the first term in each binomial factor is x. And again, because the leading coefficient is 1, the second terms in the binomial factors will be the factors of negative 6 that add to positive 5. Let's list all the factors of negative 6. We have negative 2 times positive 3, negative 3 times positive 2, negative 1 times positive 6, and negative 6 times positive 1. Each of these products is equal to negative 6. But we're looking for the factors that have a sum of positive 5. Well, negative 2 plus 3 is equal to positive 1, not 5. Negative 3 plus 2 is equal to negative 1, not 5. Negative 1 plus 6 is equal to 5, which is what we need. The factors of negative 1 and positive 6 are the factors we need to factor the trinomial. But just to finish this off, negative 6 plus 1 is equal to negative 5, not positive 5. So because the winning factors are negative 1 and positive 6, one binomial factor is x minus 1, and the other binomial factor is x plus 6. Let's look at our second example. We have 8w squared minus 32w minus 96. Again, the first step is to factor out the greatest common factor. Looking at all three terms, the greatest common factor is 8. Again, to show this, we can write each term as a product with a factor of 8. 8w squared is equal to 8 times w squared minus 32w is equal to 8 times 4w minus 96 is equal to 8 times 12. Again, this form is optional, but we can now see the greatest common factor is 8, and we can also see the remaining factor of each term after factoring out 8. So we begin by factoring out 8, which leaves us with w squared minus 4w minus 12. The trinomial inside the parentheses now has a leading coefficient of 1. If it does factor further, it will factor into two binomial factors. The first term is w squared, which is equal to w times w. So we have a w in the first position here and the first position here. Because the leading coefficient is 1, the terms in the second positions must be the factors of negative 12 that add to negative 4. Well, notice that negative 6 times positive 2 is negative 12, and negative 6 plus 2 is equal to negative 4, and therefore the winning factors are negative 6 and positive 2, which means one binomial factor is w minus 6. The other binomial factor is w plus 2. So again, remember, the first step in any factoring problem is always to factor out the greatest common factor. I hope you found this helpful.